Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jaya Jamuna Tina Vanachari Jaya Ki Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Kodani Tai Jaya Mayapur Sachi Jaya Kodani Tai Jaya Mayapur Sachi Nitai Go Haribo 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 Nitai Go Haribo Shishiko Nitai Mai Prashashi Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai So read from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, the abridged version, and we're on the introduction. Bhaktivedanta Swami had moved his Vrindavan residence to the Radha Damodar temple. Now, without even leaving his room, he could look out and see the altar and the 4-foot-high form of Vrindavan Chandra, the black marble Krishna deity worshipped hundreds of years ago by Krishnadas Kaviraj. This was superior to his room at the Vamsi Gopalji temple, because now he was living in the temple of Jiva Goswami, where great souls like the Goswamis, Rupa, Sanatan, Raghunath, and Jiva had all gathered, taken prasadam, chanted, and discussed Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. This was the best place to work on Srimad Bhagavatam. While staying at the Radha Damodar temple, Bhaktivedanta Swami could prepare his own meals, and as he sat to take prasadam, he could see through the lattice work the Samadhi tomb of Rupa Goswami. Feeling Rupa Goswami's presence, he would think of his own mission for his spiritual master. Bhaktivedanta Swami's spiritual master and the previous spiritual masters in the disciplic succession had wanted the Krishna consciousness movement to spread all over the world, and as Bhaktivedanta Swami daily gathered inspiration, sitting before Rupa Goswami's samadhi, he prayed to his spiritual predecessors for guidance. The intimate direction he received from them was an absolute dictation, and no government, no publisher, nor anyone else could shake or diminish it. Rupa Goswami wanted him to go to the West, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted him to go to the west, and Krishna had arranged that he be brought to the Radha Damodar temple to receive their blessings. At the Radha temple, he felt he had entered an eternal residence known only to pure devotees of the Lord. Yet although they were allowing him to associate intimately with them in the place of their pastimes, he felt they were ordering him to leave Radha Damodar and Vrindavan, and to deliver the message of the acharyas to forgetful parts of the world. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So now we're fortunate to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, Text 48. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Manasaiva Pure Deva Purvarupam Vipashyati Anumimam Sate Purvam Manasa Bhagavanaja Manasaiva Pure Deva Purvarupam Vipashyati Anumimam Sate Purvam Manasang Bhagavanaja Manasaiva Pure Deva Purva Burpam Vipashyati Anumimam Sate Purvam Manasa Bhagavanaja. Manasa, by the mind. Eva, indeed. Pure, in his abode, or within everyone's heart, like the Supersoul. Deva, the demigod Yamaraj. Divyatiti Deva, one who is always brilliant and illuminated is called Deva. Purvarupam, the past religious or irreligious condition. Vipashyati, completely observes. Amimamsate, he considers. Apurvam, the future condition. Manasa, with his mind. Bhagavan, who is omnipotent. Aja, as good as Lord Brahma. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The omnipotent Yamaraj is as good as Lord Brahma, for while situated in his own abode or in everyone's heart like the Paramatma, he mentally observes the past activities of a living entity and thus understands how the living entity will act in future lives. Please repeat. The omnipotent Yamaraj is as good as Lord Brahma, for while situated in his own abode or in everyone's heart like the Paramatma, he mentally observes the past activities of a living entity and thus understands how the living entity will act in future lives. Purport. One should not consider Yamaraj an ordinary living being. He is as good as Lord Brahma. He has the complete cooperation of the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, and therefore, by the grace of the Supersoul, he can see the past, present, and future of a living being from within. The word anumimamsate means that he can decide in consultation with the Supersoul. Anu means following. The actual decisions concerning the next lives of the living entities are made by the Supersoul, and they are carried out by Yamaraj. Omagana Timadantasya Gananjana Chadakaya Chukshunaminitam Jina Tasma Shri Guruvay Namaha Nakam Kuruti Vacharam Pangalonga Takerin Yat Kripatavam Bande Shri Gurunjinitarnam Vanchakalpa Jubistra Kripa Sindhubiyevicha Petitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we're getting a description of the power of Yamaraj, and that he's like non-different from the super soul in a sense that he's has direct communication with him, and the super soul is in everyone's heart, so he can know the heart of every living entity, their desires, their what they can, basically what they're going to do from moment to moment, and so it's not ordinary in any way, as Prabhupada says. And he says it's as good as Lord Brahma. So, like Lord Brahma, he has direct communication with Lord Vishnu, and their communication is from heart to heart. They don't have to speak. So the living entity can be empowered to do all amazing things, like mystic, even just the mystic yogis. They can acquire different siddhis of becoming lighter than the light or heavier, and smaller than the smallest, being able to like go into the Ganges in one part of India and immerse thousands of miles away. So this is how wonderful the energy of the Lord is. This is how the Lord takes control. There's Krishna in the spiritual world enjoying, and because he doesn't want to be God and just the ruler, and supplier like this, but he wants to enjoy. So what he does is expand himself into many living entities, some of which are, like you could say, the GBC of the universe, different devas who have a desire to control, but they're also godly. They want to abide by the laws of the Lord, so they're given such positions to preside over and govern the universe and make sure that everything goes according to plan. And the plan is, does anyone know the plan, the reason for creation, the plan of the universe? Yeah, that's it. And one is a place for where the living entity can enjoy, but it's also a place for reformation, so that the soul can be guided to his original state and be eligible to return back home, back to Godhead. So, yeah, so the Lord doesn't need a CCTV camera like we've just had some installed here to watch out for any sinful, those with coming with ill intent. So Yamaraj, he's in connection with the super soul. So this is another realm of consciousness. This example also how Sanjaya, the secretary of Dhritarashtra, he could observe all what was going on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just from his office with Dhritarashtra in the palace. So from within his heart, he could see exactly what was going on. And so similarly, that prayer, Om Tad Vishnu Padamam Padam Pada Pashyanti Shurya Jiva Chacha Chatam Tad Vipaso Vipanivo Jagra Vamsa Samintite Vishnu Yet Padamam Padam. And it goes something like, or does anyone know the exact translation? Om Tad Vishnu Padamam Padam Pada. We say it a lot. It's just how the Lord, just as everyone can perceive the sun rays and the sun, so similarly, great souls can have vision of the spiritual world within their hearts. Like we hear how like Srila Rupa Goswami, he was an example of how he was absorbed in chants, and the Lord's pastimes were manifest in his heart. And at one point, he laughed, and but at that time, one Muni was walking by, and he had some deformity, or he couldn't walk straight. So he felt offended when he heard Goswami laughing, and because of that, his samadhi broke. His past, he had no access to them, and so he wondered why. And this Muni, he went to Sanatana Goswami, and he explained why. It was Rupa Goswami, such an elevated soul. He was laughing at me, and if anyone can correct me on this, that Rupa Goswami also went to Sanatan, wondering why his darshan of the Lord's pastimes broke, and this was brought to Rupa Goswami, the Muni's complaint. And but then when the Muni heard from Rupa Goswami, he became so ashamed that he felt that he thought himself so significant to be offended by such a devotee. And but also Rupa Goswami was repentant also, even though he was blameless in one sense. Anyway, the so this just gives us an idea of how there's due to, according to our level of consciousness, we can access more different realms of reality. And also that we had to see how insignificant we are in and that there are these higher beings who know exactly what we're doing at every moment, or to speak of the super soul, and to not to take our situation cheaply. We've got such an opportunity to take advantage of this process of Krishna consciousness, going back home, back to Godhead. But still, we think, we can, act in such a way that we don't take it so seriously. So we've been given such an opportunity in a time that's, only 500 years ago, Lord Chaitanya appeared. Only a few years ago, Prabhupada was here. We're still in consultation with his disciples. So much has been recorded, and so much energy is there being put into encouraging every member who's interested in spiritual life to progress forward. Understanding that the modes of material nature are there, and it's a battle going on between the devotee Vishnudutas and the Maya's agents, who she doesn't want anyone to enter the spiritual world to disturb Krishna. So she does her job very well and tests our sincerity. And as soon as we make that agree to do as the tasks that we've been given and the practices, then the more we make advancement. But if we think we've got room to maneuver and play around in a spiritual playground, then we're just prolonging our stay in the material world, which is increasingly becoming apparent how it's not a place for a devotee or someone who knows that there's more to their existence than this, than what goes on here. So we have this class every morning to remind us. And so it's so important to regularly take stock of where we are, what we're doing, how we're doing, and the devotees are there to assist. So it's a perfect situation to be able to make our to both go back home, back to Godhead in this life. So being in a material body and with the mind and contaminated intelligence and false ego, it's not. We're not always conscious of how of what we've got, and how to see the urgency of how important it is to take advantage of it while we can. It's just like that saying said, how, just as so many people are dying in this world, but we think we're not going to die. We think we've got a few more years, depending on how old we are. But we don't know if this is the last year of our life. We don't know if this is the last 7 minutes of our life. So we're seeing in Prabhupada Leelamrita, we're reading how Prabhupada, seeing Prabhupada's sense of urgency. If we put ourselves in his situation, and just with us to, he had the mission of delivering the whole world back home, back to Godhead. We've got the responsibility of just ourselves and taking as many people with us as we can. So if we put ourselves in his situation, how he must have felt, just taken completely out of his comfort zone, completely, if he had one. And, put ourselves in a situation, we've been given a task, like so many, like Prabhupada disciples, just to open a center somewhere. Suppose we're told today, go to open a center in China, we practically have a heart attack. And, that we're going to spread Krishna consciousness. So how much faith we have to have, and how deep we have to go into our own consciousness, into our own practices, to be able to rise to the challenge. So we should feel ourselves like Srila Prabhupada before he left the West, preparing himself as much as possible, taking advantage of all the acharyas, their association, and praying like anything, like that pastime of how Prabhupada used to go as a grihasta to the certain temple, and he'd be chanting in the back there, and one pujari would notice him coming regularly, and then he wouldn't see him for a few years, and then he saw him again, but this time in saffron. And when he was chanting, tears were streaming from his eyes. He was like looking totally distraught. And he approached him and he says, I'm the insignificant, most fallen disciple of His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada. But yet I've given an impossible mission by him to deliver this Krishna consciousness to the Western world. And people knew the Western world as, in India, how they're just a bunch of sense gratifiers, willing to do the most degraded thing for their for so-called happiness. So he had some idea. Even it was even said how it said never sannyasi should never cross the water. But because he had such faith, because he had such conviction in the words of his spiritual master, in the process of Krishna consciousness, and that he was just an embodiment of, he left Vrindavan, and went to the west, boarded the Jaladuta. Can imagine if you're feeling totally unqualified, as Prabhupada did, and you're going on this boat and knowing not without a clue of what's lying ahead. So Shishikoni Taima Pushashiki Jaya. So how we should feel. We just got ourselves to worry about. So, but we've been given that order also. So how we should deepen our practices, really, really study threadbare to everything we need to make ourselves fully equipped to fly our own plane when it comes to coming back home, back to Godhead. So every moment should be taken advantage of to advance in this way. So we see how, because of that depth of consciousness, they couldn't be illusioned into thinking they were anything great. Like Yamaraj, he considered himself insignificant. And even though also he's one of the Mahajans. So this is a symptom of their knowledge, their humility is a symptom of how the depth of consciousness a devotee has. They can't be bewildered into thinking they're anything great, because they know everything happens by the grace of the Lord. They're just the instrument, their good fortune, and even they are this, like prayer by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion, how it's called Ashabandha, and he's hoping against hope that he'll get the mercy of the Lord. Does anyone know that prayer? Ashabandha. So just as Prabhupada was just really kind of, if we really kind of put ourselves in his shoes, then we'd have some idea of the how much we've got to, what we've got to do to deliver ourselves, for to speak of taking on Lord Chaitanya's order of everyone becoming guru. And recently the GBC, the understanding before was that a disciple wouldn't really become a guru in the presence of his spiritual master. They usually wait till he's left the world and then take on that position. But now the situation is so dire, and this world situation is so unstable, that the GBC are looking for gurus everywhere, the people with potential, so that it may come into a situation where the world's, World War III and all that, so communities become completely isolated, and internet, no such thing as internet anymore, or things like this. So they're looking to initiate as many people qualified to be gurus as possible, so that people have that guidance and someone they can turn to for that, without depending on someone thousands of miles away that may never appear again. Shiksha and Diksha, I presume also, but they want to initiating gurus. So this is their level of consciousness, seeing into the future, how they're able to have that, have to be visionary to see what's needed according to time, place, and circumstance. So I'll stop there if there's any comments or questions or reflections anyone can share.
Thank you. That was just wanted to say it was a fantastic lesson. I had that reminder of the importance of where my attention, my energy should be. You know, yesterday I got a phone call from a contract that I sometimes take from my working life, and was discussing something with me, and I could feel that that lure of something pulling me. I hadn't realised that there's that strong, almost magnetic pull to something else. You know what I mean? And like you said, we have these lessons every morning, and it's so vital, isn't it? Sometimes I walk up the hill there thinking to myself, "Oh, I wonder what we'll hear today." But it's the same thing. It's that reminder, that constant reminder, and how I need that. Really, I think it's so important. I suspect, especially for someone who's unsure and very new and getting into the literature and trying to understand things, it's such a vital thing. I just wanted to say thank you. It was a really useful lesson. Thank you.
I'm basically preaching to myself here to try and encourage myself to really take it on board. So, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, thank you. My question is, in the material world, there's so much to fear. Basically, there's a lot of things going on which are quite scary. In fact, I'm wondering if this is a wise thing to act from this fear, or if we should find it from somewhere else to act.
Definitely. That's why it's there, as an impetus to really take advantage of any way which we can to get out. It's not. It's in the beginning stages. It's okay, but then we should come to the point of having a taste and doing it for Krishna's sake, rather than trying to just save our own skin. Which is intelligent, but to be able to, if we want to go back to the spiritual world, then we have to do it because we want Krishna and only Krishna. So we can use that fear in Krishna's service to propel us to that stage. So whichever, beg, borrow, steal the holy names, so, as it says, so whatever's going to push us in that direction, to really appreciate what we have and to come back to the point where we are the eternal loving servant of the Lord 24 hours a day, then to take advantage of it. Did you? So as soon as we really, like in one purport in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says, as soon as one understands the urgency, so have we understood the urgency yet? Are we just going through the motions, enjoying the perks, and thinking we're well situated because of them? Are we just enjoying being seen as someone, and that's just, we're just riding on that rather than really taking to our eternal spiritual wealth, seeing to our eternal spiritual welfare and protecting our progress, protecting our protecting that which helps us to keep progressing. It's like think the heavenly. You hear how the heavenly planets are so. You hear how it's a million times more than the pleasure you get in the earthly realm. But this Prabhupada compared it to like the impious and the pious. Pious being in the heavenly planets and impious being below. He's saying how one, instead of sending some persons to prison, they would give them some punishment in the form of dunking. They'd put their head in the water and leave them there till they're struggling like anything, and then pull them up, and then as soon as and then dunk them down again, and pull them up. You're going to do it again. You're going to do it. No, don't really want to do it again. Are you sure? So Prabhupada compared the gasping for breath. That was the heavenly planets enjoying so much because you've got a bit of air, and then underneath just the suffering of the hellish planets. So that's all it is. Just compare it to that, then what is the heavenly planets? Especially when you compare it to that's how the vision of a pure devotee. You just happiness that's just going to be there for a while, and then it's back you come to the earth planet to either go back down to hell or back up again. It's just a Ferris wheel. So if we can see things in that, we always try and keep our vision perspective in that, have that perspective, then we're going places, so to protect that perspective as much as possible. So in this way, when we do have that perspective, then we've got the Guru and Parampara, our spiritual masters, Guru and Parampara, the witnesses that we heard, the Mahajans, the demigods, they're all on our side. They're kind of encouraging us to go and giving us all opportunities. So the more we take those opportunities, the more they can be reassured that, the more Maya can be reassured that we're not going to, we're not going to be, we truly want to please Krishna and not take a cut for ourselves from time to time. You can mention the devotees in Ukraine just now. They feel like they could be on death's door. They don't know. So how much what their chanting is like every morning, and during the day, because that's all they have, the holy name. They come to that. They've been fortunate to come to that realization that all they have is the holy name, and to experience the reciprocation of the holy name as a reality, not just a theoretical thing or just something you repeat parrot fashion, but it's actual reality. So I think I'll stop there unless there's any other questions or comments. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samavekta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Bol.
Her Grace Vrinda Mataji Ki Jai.